Good morning, welcome to my channel. My name is David Okon. I've been talking about the cost of living, and I'm relating the cost of living in terms of the credit crunch, which was actually a financial crisis of 2007 and 2008, which began in America. The problem beginning in America started when the U.S. government failed to provide public housing to people who need help, for people who are working class, poor people, people with less education. These are actually poor people, the middle and the working class, mainly the working class, and the lower scale of society. The middle and the working class are always unable to buy property for living in because of the high cost of housing. Therefore, in tradition, normally it is the government of the Western world and the capitalism. Capitalism is a global economic system now, with globalization, with the spread of modern age of economic and politics. So everywhere, whether you go to the West, what used to be the Western world, the Eastern world, the Middle East, Africa, America, everywhere in the world, we are now practicing capitalism. And the capitalism is now becoming more and more extreme, meaning the government is withdrawing help from the public sector to provide public service, which we now only just providing. And the providing of public service or lack thereof led to what is now the cost of living crisis, which is actually quite similar, or actually a continuation of the problem beginning in America in 2007 and 2008 with the credit crunch, which actually resulted from a failure of the financial system in America, impacting on the global economic system of the world, and leading to a crisis which actually led to austerity measures by members of global states. Austerity measures meaning cuts in public service, and also the closure of public sector. And I have always argued that the cost of living crisis is an income problem resulting from the incidence of poverty under capitalism as an economic system globally. And like I said, thank you so much for everyone who have been supporting me. If you haven't subscribe this channel, like I said. And if you have been subscribing, thank you so much. Continue supporting this program. But watch the videos, share with family and friends. Subscribing is free and it takes seconds. You don't need to put your personal details, so it takes only seconds. It's quite easy. The best way to support a YouTube channel, and people who enjoy watching this, or even if you don't enjoy it, you value what I'm doing, or you're just curious, you want to know where this program is going. We are small. We are still started only last year in December, so we are doing very well. We are making steady progress, but the process is slow. So do your best to support the program, support the channel. Let's go back to looking at the cost of living. The reason for talking about the cost of living, if you watch the rest of my video, this is the series of those videos. Watch this video and watch the other videos very well. There are so many videos that are produced. The quality is improving as we learn more how to deal with this process. And so look at these videos, and what you will see when you look at this video, you will find that the primary reason I'm talking about this, because I believe if there is a problem, you need to understand what is going on in your country, in your life, in your community, in your family, in terms of income, in terms of health, in terms of their employment, education, transportation. Ask yourself certain questions whether you have been able to go to holidays at least once or twice in a year. Also try to find out what is happening with your money, with your employer, condition of work, and your rights, employment rights in terms of the law and government policy. These are all connected, and this is a systemic source of the cost of living as a country. It is the source of poverty, is the source of hardship which actually poor people experience. And I've already defined poverty in terms of people who work for a living. Some people are actually in the middle range of income. They are called the middle class. They probably get between 50,000, 100,000, 300, 400. But if you cannot buy a property outright in a developed country like Britain, America, and Europe, China, Russia, these are places with very high level of very high cost of housing, and the cost of living is quite high compared to places like Africa or South America or other parts of the developing countries. If you're in Africa, you cannot actually afford to build a permanent property. You cannot afford to build self-contained property. Then you're poor. And by default, in terms of infrastructure and also general economic outlook, development generally in Africa is quite very basic. But there are also a lot of multi-billionaires in Africa. So every time I speak to discuss the cost of living and other topics, hopefully also in the future, I've been referencing the cost of living with different other subtopics. Like the subtopic, like I said now, I will be looking at the cost of living and what happened in America in 2007 and 2008 with the housing problem. The housing problem in America began when American government failed to provide public housing to homeless people who are poor, who are actually the majority of the population in the world, between 80, 90 or even more percent of the population. Because of capitalism is rigged in favor of the few and not the many. These few are the ones with money, multi-billionaires, who actually form between 10 or even 5% of the population. And it is getting worse and worse against the majority of the population. That begs the question of freedom, the question of security, national security, food security, energy, and all aspects of social infrastructure, developmental infrastructure. I will also be looking at, apart from looking at development, I will be looking at culture, education, educating the citizens, poor, rich and poor, people's behavior, their character, their personality, their capacity to behave like human, the people behaving like human beings who actually value humanity as first priority. These I will be repeating over and over going forward, because I want people to understand that society progress is composed of culture and development. And like I said, culture is things like wealth, including housing, including energy, access to energy, food. And culture is things like respect, respecting humans, valuing human life. And we need to really do this, especially with a poor person. And we need to rebuild our families, our communities, because when the state closes down the public sector as it is doing, then we, the people of the world, will be relying on ourselves as individuals. But we are better off as families coming together, as communities coming together. We need more people, not less. There are people who are actually arguing in our society to reduce the population of the world. The population of the world being reduced, they are referring to humans. They don't talk about wild animals like cattle, bear, foxes, or even wolves. They don't talk about wild animals. They don't talk about population of trees or anything. They talk about human population. It's as if humans are the enemy of the people. You cannot do that. That is a cultural failure. You cannot say human is the enemy of humans. And that doesn't make sense. That should stop. That is violence. If you want peace, then we have to value humanity, prioritize humanity. We need more people, but we need to manage our environment. We need to plant more trees. We need to use technology to actually filter water from the oceans for drinking, for cultivation, and for watering plants. This can be done. The world is enough. The people can grow. Population can be supported by technology. Technology is now improving, especially in terms of agriculture, where we increasingly are going to use less and less natural resources. We are going to actually create environment for growing food and for including, things like vertical gardening. Synthetic soil is being created now, and also we are beginning to grow fruit and vegetables in supermarkets, in stores, other than on the land. And we more and more we're going to use machines and system of irrigation. The idea that natural resources is going to be depleted is false. It doesn't matter how educated, it doesn't matter who is speaking about that. It's actually false, it's mistaken, and it should stop. We need to really invest in humanity. We need to invest in the economy. We need to eradicate poverty. Poverty with the amount of wealth, with the wealth of knowledge, technology, science, and other aspects of development, there should be no poverty anywhere. Any government telling you otherwise, ask them to think again, because they are not telling the truth. If they are trying to tell the truth, they are mistaken about the truth. The truth is, it is actually negligence. It's a form of the people with money need to really be educated culturally, so that they begin to address the issue of inequality, and more than that, they need to use their money, work with the government to get people out of poverty immediately. Poverty in the world today can be eradicated within 5 to 10 years. If you're saying, you need to maximize the time for eradication, maybe 50 years or 100 years. And we're not even talking about that now. We are facing a situation of where people are actually going to be dying because of poverty. Instead of going forward, we're actually reverting back. And that's what I'm trying to make people understand. When your MP speaks about the reason why they cost of living, you should know it and tell your MP, your members of parliament, why the cost of living is happening. If they go to get advice from experts, tell them to talk to you, because you should be the expert on poverty. You're the one who is poor. If you work for a living, you're the one who is poor. There's no point going to an expert, to maybe a pay review board in the UK or other, pay review, whatever else. People advising on banking, whatever, on what to do with the economy, whether to open or shut down the public sector. You, the people, are actually the owner of your wealth. You should be the one telling the government what to do, not some experts who do not even understand poverty. There's no evidence they went through of poverty. There is no reason to believe they go through a lot of hardship trying to access health care. If you cannot access health care, you phone your hospital and they do not even answer the phone. And when they answer the phone, they don't give you an appointment, because the appointment is already full up and it's only 10 o'clock in the morning. For example, in the UK where I live. These are actually false economy. These are actually the practice of negligence and violence. The government should stop and put the right people in power, people who value humanity, people who don't neglect humanity. And my thinking is that the people in power now, including people like Prime Minister, the head of state, are actually people who are so violent and so negligent and ignorant about the human value. They don't care about people. And whether they are politicians or whether they are investors, whether they are multimillionaires or people operating in the private sector or the public sector, in the civil service or within the management and delivery systems, these kind of people who are now only thinking about money and wealth and not thinking about human life. Human life is like now seen to be very cheap. These people are actually supposed to be removed from power. Their wealth should be frozen. And we need to, before we do that, we need to start learning how to respect people. Whether you're poor, whether you're rich, And this may not be a short or medium term thing. It may take 100 or 500 years. Now, the process will start now. I'm not asking for anybody to do anything radical now, because it won't work. We need to prepare the citizens with to develop a sense of national consciousness or global consciousness. And this simply means that the consciousness about the value of humanity. There are people, poor and rich, who no longer even value themselves, because the culture, the teaching, the information is false, is actually chaotic. And we can't go on like that if we are to survive. Because, suffering and hardship is reality. Death is real. And loss is real. Destruction is real. We don't need to live like that. And that's what I'm actually recording this video. I'm talking about the cost of living to illustrate all these issues. And we need to plan. We need to figure out what we're going to do with our leaders. We need to do something. If we design a plan, we need to work to implement such plans. Plan may mean, what are you going to eat today? How much are you going to spend this week on food and energy? Budgeting is a type of plan I'm talking about. I'm not talking about some complicated, you just take a pen and paper, write it down. And you need to learn to manage your finances, your budget, not budgeting. You need to do your financial statement. There are information online. You can do this yourself, or you can visit some charities around your country. Go online, look for charities which give free advice and support. Go to the government website in your country, and basically you can get advice independently. It takes longer. Read and read and read and read. Write. Think. And visit social media like YouTube. Don't despise anything. Everything helps. And go to the gym, walk, play, but keep thinking all the time. Because it's your life. You have to develop your life and change the way you think. You can depend on the government if you want that. More and more, get out of the habit of spending and depending on the government. Learn to depend on yourself, on your family, on your community, on other humans, whether they are rich or poor. As long as they are respectful, as long as they understand the value of humanity, engage with them to the extent that we are able. At the lower level, if community groups or families can come together and start planning on how to manage their homes, their lives, and do, check what you've done, monitor your achievement, assess, do reviews, look at what is happening. Are you making progress? It doesn't matter how little it is. Once, maybe last week you could not do a budget, and you did a budget last week. You do a review this week, and see how you went. You will be surprised how much you have managed your finances. It doesn't matter how little or how big your money is. Especially if it's very little. The best thing is to sit down and list what you need to buy, how much the thing is going to cost, and the following week you list again. You compare the information and what you need to reduce, what you need to maintain, what you need to increase. Little things like that. It is going to make you stronger. It's empowering. It is healing. It puts you in control of your life and your finances. And with that confidence, you begin to do other things. Probably develop your career or your work profile, do training. If there's benefit, get benefit from the government, whichever government you live with, whichever country, whichever government you live in, and get help in every little help. If there is help, do your best to get it. There is no help, do your best to do something for yourself. Help means things given to you by charities, by the government. But help also may mean retraining to maybe start a small business, be self-employed, become self-employed, learn to manage business. Even if you don't make much money, you're going to make you feel it's meaning. You are going to be more in control of your life. The worst thing to be in the world is actually to be desperate, be lost, lose hope totally, not knowing what to do. Be empowered. And that is part of the reason I'm actually producing this video. But I'm going to reference it with the financial crash in America and the global and the credit crisis happening in the world, because that has been very fundamental in disturbing the financial relationship of the globe. So we have been looking at the events which took place in America. We have been focusing mainly on housing, things like housing prices, how the financial crash actually affected the housing situation, the pricing situation. When we talk about housing bubble, we mean the growth of financial activity, economic activity within the housing sector. When the government decided to support the lending, the credit financial system in America with government facilities and financial facilities, the actors advise the financial system, the financial community to give credit to people who otherwise would not be qualified to get credit. And we created something like subprime mortgage, which actually was attracting a lot of high levels of interest rate. And this fell on the poor of America who were trying to buy houses instead of the government providing public housing through public mechanisms. It was attempting to provide public housing through a private mechanism. That policy failed and created a credit crunch. And the problem, which is still continuing now and affecting what's now the cost of living crisis. So when something is bubbling, it means it's expanding. If you put something on fire, maybe you put some food or water, even if it starts to bubble, it means it's like expanding. It's kind of chaotic. That's how they describe the growth in the housing market, the housing sector. And also, these actually carried on from 2007 to 2008. Even in 2000, in the year 2000, the problem was still there. The problem is still there, but we're looking at the historical aspect more, so that we get a view of how this problem functions to impact what happens in our daily life. Like I said, if you are an ordinary person, somebody maybe you didn't go to university, this is the time, because we have a lot of information in the world, you should try and learn something independently, because when you learn something, it actually it empowers you. It makes you feel good. Like I said before, it's like a therapy. It's like a health therapy. So we're looking at the 2000 United States housing bubble. We're looking at some figures. We're looking at graphs showing the median and average sales prices of new homes sold in the United States between 1963 and 2016, not adjusted inflation. So 2016 is quite recent. Compared to 1963, there is a lot of differences between 1998 and 2006. The price of the typical American house increased by 124%. That is a lot of percentage increase, because the sale went up. People who could not get mortgages, who could not get credit to buy houses in debt. I mean, people got into debt. So many people got into debt as a result. And there was defaulting because they couldn't actually pay back. During the 1980s and the 1990s, the national median home price ranged from 2.9 to 3.1 times median household income. So median household income were lower than the prices of housing, because when you produce demand in the market, the price goes up, and the next thing you're anticipating is inflation. And inflation is the mother of all chaos in modern capitalistic and marketized economy. By contrast, this ratio increased to 4 to 4.0 in 2004 and 4.6 in 2006. This housing bubble resulted in many homeowners refinancing their homes at lower interest rates or financing consumer spending by taking out second mortgages secured by the price appreciation. When price appreciates, it means it goes up and homeowners get more money, more value on their property. And in a Peabody award-winning program, NPR correspondents argued that a giant pool of money represented by 70 trillion US dollar in worldwide fixed income investment short higher yields than those offered by the US Treasury bonds early in the decade. This pool of money had roughly doubled in size from 2000 to 2007, yet the supply of relatively safe income-generating investment had not grown as fast. So there were a lot of imbalance and instability. Developing investment banks on Wall Street answered this demand with products such as the mortgage-backed security and the collateralized debt and debt obligation that assigned safe ratings by the credit rating agency. So there was some creativity and actually repackaging of policy and processes to support the phenomenon of this change. In effect, Wall Street connected this pool of money to the mortgage market in the US, with enormous fees accruing to those throughout the mortgage supply chain, from the mortgage brokers selling the loans to small banks that funded the brokers and large investment banks behind them. This is some of the responses by the market. If you watch my previous video, it's a continuation of that. I gave a more extensive explanation in those previous videos. By approximately 2008, the supply of mortgage originated at traditional lending standards had been exhausted, and continued strong demand began to drive down lending standards. Lending standards, we discussed it there because, the credit market for housing became less strict. Like I said previously, that people who were not allowed previously, to borrow money for buying houses were now borrowing money, even if they were on low income, even if they were poor, which means in practice, we were creating a shadow housing market and the attending shadow housing element, economic element of housing, or housing element of economic estate. This essentially places such cash payments from multiple mortgage or other debt obligations into a single pool from which specific securities grow in a specific sequence of priority. These securities first in the received investment grade ratings from rating agencies. Securities with lower priority are lower rating, credit rating, but theoretically a higher rate of return on the amount invested. By September 2008, average US housing prices had declined by over 20% from their mid-2006 peak. This affected housing prices. When there is demand and supply disturbances, the prices impacted. As prices declined, borrowers with adjustable rate mortgages could not refinance to avoid the higher payments associated with rising interest rates and began to default. So they became poorer. Their finances became chaotic, and they were not paying back their mortgages. During 2007, lenders began foreclosure proceedings on nearly 1.3 million properties, a 79% increase over 2006. Foreclosures mean that if you borrow money to buy your home or any your property anywhere, if you fail to pay, they're going to take your property back, which means the poor people who needed housing, which the government didn't give them housing, which the government actually allowed them to borrow money to buy housing on mortgages, are failing to repay their mortgages, lost their home, and became homeless. This increased to 2.3 million in 2008 and an 81% increase versus 2007. By August 2008, approximately 9% of all U.S. mortgages outstanding were either delinquent or in foreclosure. Delinquent means failing, being in debt. Bad behavior, you're behaving badly. By September 2009, this has risen to 14.4%. After the bubble burst, Australian economist John Quicken wrote, and unlike the Great Depression, this crisis was entirely the product of financial markets. He is wrong because it is not. The crisis was not caused by the financial market. He is wrong because the crisis was actually caused by the U.S. government failing to provide public housing to people who need housing, for failing to actually set up a public sectoral mechanism to provide public housing. Like I said previously, private companies do not provide public service. They are not designed to do that. They don't do that. Even if the government finances them, like the government financing the housing market in America, and also subjecting this process to the market forces, this is a form of insanity. It is a form of madness or gross negligence. By the U.S. government, by the global governments, they are practicing the same thing globally, including in the UK and in Europe, and that's why now we have the cost of living crisis. Because the government is closing down the public sector deliberately and promoting the private sector to provide public sector in hospitals, in schools, in energy, in food, in water, in transportation, in employment, and in benefits. This does not work. Capitalism is a very dangerous environment for people who are poor. It is very lucrative. It's a very fantastic place for people who are multimillionaires because they make more money. But you see, the reality going forward is that the type of violence and ruthlessness within the economic system makes the poor people vulnerable and maybe facing extinction. But also, rich people and super rich can also be destroyed. Because if the system is wrong against poor people, because he actually lack humanity, and if that is the situation, you destroy the majority who are actually 90%, 95%. You're going to destroy, in fact, humanity faces extinction, rich and poor. So it's a no-brainer for the government, if we are actually humans, if we are sane, unless we are so depraved and so corrupted that we live we live in a societal way that we don't even care whether we die or we don't value our life, we don't value the life of people we live with. This should change through cultural education. That's what I'm talking about. I'm using this information to develop this argument and to illustrate the points. There was nothing like the post-war turmoil of the 1920s, the struggles over coal convertibility and operations and reparation, or the smooth, all these tariffs, all of which have shared the blame for the Great Depression. You may actually be aware of what happened during that time with the Great Depression instead quickly quickens the blame for the 2008 nearly meltdown on financial market, on political decision to lightly regulate them, and on rating agencies which had self-interested incentive to give good rating. Now, regulation is irrelevant under these circumstances because, like I said, by default, privatizing the public sector is the problem. And giving public money to private companies is the problem. This is a big corporation because it produces chaos. These philosophies are actually worlds apart from each other. Private businesses, public businesses are like night and day. I don't know which one is night, which one is day, depends what you do to them. And so that's what created the financial problem. And we need to really remember that. We are going to look at easy credit condition. Easy credit condition I've already spoken about. That you mean easy credit, you borrow easily. People who were denied credit because they didn't have the capacity to maintain credit relationship were allowed by government legislation and policy in implementing those policies through the private sectoral mechanism. Whether government has regulated the economy, it was not going to work because the default position is that the public sector should provide public service and private sector should provide private service. So lower interest rates encourage borrowing. From 2000 to 2003, the Federal Reserve lowered the federal funds rate target from 6.5% to 1%. So if you lower interest rate, you encourage borrowing, and if people borrow who could not otherwise afford to borrow, they seemingly would afford to borrow because things like low pay, things like, it's actually poverty. Literally, people who struggle to manage money, they don't have the skill to manage their finances. Government should set up institutions up and down the countries across the globe to support poor people, to lift them out of ignorance on financial management. You see, poor people should be experts on financial products, financial instruments, financial system, financial operations. They should know that is the way to get them out of poverty, the way to maintain them, to make them competitive, to produce a survivability. And if the system at the fundamental context need to be adjusted, need to be changed to accommodate more people who can get rich, then that needs to be done because our function, our responsibility as humans is to survive. We don't want humans to go extinct. Right now, we should be now concentrating on trying to get medication to prolong medical technology, or just call it technology, to prolong our life. Some people are now doing that research to find ways of extending our life span, the length of our life. We now die within a decade of around 100 years. We should be in a position to live 200, 300, 500, 1,000 years by managing aging in the first place, but also developing medicine for diseases, to control diseases and other infections. This is achievable if the political will, if the culture works. So we are back to square one to start learning how to value humanity, to reduce violence, so that the wars such as happening in Ukraine, which is costing a lot of money actually, it's actually costing life at war, but there is another war known as the cost of living crisis. It's killing people, destroying life. People are losing wealth, losing jobs, losing livelihood. This need to change. So this was done to soften the effects of the collapse of the dot-com bubble and the September 11 attacks, as well as to combat the perceived risk of deflation. Deflation, when the economy shrinks, it becomes smaller, including money. The value of money goes down. I mean, the incidence of currency of money goes down. As early as 2002, it was apparent that credit was fueling housing instead of business investment, as some economists went so far as to advocate that the Fed needs to create a housing bubble to replace the Nasdaq bubble. Nasdaq is the entity of the financial market, the stock market. Moreover, empirical studies using data from advanced countries show that excessive credit growth contributed greatly to the severity of the crisis. Like I've been saying, the crisis was created by giving unnecessarily high level of credit. Like I said also previously, the credit economic system is wrong. It should be shut down. People do not need to borrow money. There is so much wealth. Wealthy people should spend their money to invest in the market, and using taxation and borrowing by the government, especially taxation, not even borrowing. Because borrowing is more costly because you repay with interest. That should be scrapped for private and public business in running the economy. What we need to do is, if we need money from private, if the government needs money, they should tax rich people more. They should also tax poor people, but use the money for specific, to promote public sector and to manage the economy, and to support private big businesses to manage the economy. But see, the government should regulate these entities so that they don't run riot. But development approach is not enough for survival. We need educational, cultural elements where people respect themselves, they respect their wealth. Rich people do not respect themselves anymore. Poor people do not respect themselves anymore. The both rich and poor no longer respect wealth. You have to have respect for money. Spend money respectfully. You don't have to throw money like water. And change the way you treat yourself, you treat other people. Think what other people think. Now we don't even care what other people think. We do so many wrong things, like killing people, swearing, mistreating people. We treat people like as if they are animals. We call people strangers. We are so uneducated as global community members. Whether you're in Africa, whether you're in the developed world, whether you're in Europe or America, we need to change our behavior. So let us look at U.S. current account deficit, which is actually not important to us at all because these are actually technical areas. I'm just trying to go through them to try and bring them to life in terms of how we understand life on a day-to-day basis. Additional downward pressure on interest rates was created by rising U.S. current account deficit, which peaked along with the housing bubble in 2006. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke explained how trade deficit required the U.S. to borrow money from abroad, in the process beating up both prices and lowering interest rates. These are some of the reactions, some of the responses from the authorities and experts who are responsible for running our economy at that time. Bernanke explained that between 1996 and 2004, the U.S. current account deficit increased by $650 billion from 1.5% to 8.5% of GDP. Financing this deficit required the country to borrow large sums from abroad, with much of it from countries running trade surpluses. If you grow like China did, and part of the Asian Pacific nations were doing at that time, growing the economy by managing their economy more effectively. So they were actually being requested to contribute to the chaos, which was mainly the letting of American environment, economic environment, and policy failure, policy, mismanagement, and policy negligence. These were mainly the emerging economies in Asia and oil exporting nations. The balance of payments identity requires that countries such as the US running a current account deficit also have a capital account investment surplus of the same amount. If you talk about surplus, it's the opposite of deficit. They have more money to play with in their stock, and large and growing amount of foreign funds capital flowed into the US to finance its imports. All this created demand for various types of financial assets, raising the prices of these assets while lowering interest rates. Foreign investment at these firms to lend either because they are very high personal saving rates as high as 40% in China, or because of high oil prices. Ben Bernanke referred to this as a saving glut. I don't know what saving glut means. If you are a glut, it means you are greedy. A flood of funds, capital, or liquidity reach the US financial market. Liquidity means not money is being pumped into the account. Liquid cash. This is actually to give life. It's like blood. Money is like blood to the economy. It's blood. It's the human being. Money is flood of funds, capital, or liquidity reach the U.S. financial market. Foreign governments supplied funds by purchasing treasury bonds and thus avoided much of the direct effect of the crisis. So you're looking at government responses in policy and decision making to try and support the market, because in a modern economy we can only do so much to survive with managing our economy. Our economy, in other words, is our life. If we neglect our economy, we are actually not only hostages, but our livelihood is in trouble. US households use funds borrowed from foreigners to finance consumption or to beat up the prices of housing and financial assets. Financial institutions invested foreign funds in mortgage-backed securities. The Fed then raised the Fed funds rate significantly between July 2004 and July 2006. This contributed to an increase in 1 year and 5 year adjustable rate mortgage ARM rates, making ARM interest rate as resets more expensive for homeowners. So if homeowners are facing expensive interest rate, which means the cost of repayment to their mortgages go up, and this leads to all sorts of problems. Including repossession of your property, losing your estate, your livelihood, and sometimes if you're not careful, you can actually be destroyed. So even if you're less careful, you're going to die. This may have also contributed to the deflating of the housing bubble, as asset prices generally move inversely to interest rates, and it became riskier to speculate in housing. Speculation is actually gambling. And if interest rate goes up and prices going down, then the big problem. Weak and fraudulent underwriting practices. So these are some of the situations providing during the financial crisis. And this kind of really chaos is reminiscent of capitalism in the marketized environment of trading and business doing, making the market economic system resembling a jungle where sometimes lawlessness actually is in order for the day. Subprime lending standard declined in the US in early 2000. A subprime borrower at a FICO score of 660 or less. That means it's bad. By 2005, many lenders dropped the required FICO score to 620, making it much easier to qualify for prime loans and making subprime lending a riskier business. Proof of income and assets were de-emphasized. Loans at first required full documentation, then no documentation, then no documentation. The irregularities and the negligence and the lawlessness that gone from bad to worse. One subprime mortgage product that gained wide acceptance was the no income, no job, no asset verification required Ninja mortgage. Informally, these loans were actually referred to as layer loans because they encourage borrowers to be less than honest in the loan application process. So if you're not less than honest, it's actually a polite way of saying you are practicing dishonesty without actually saying it. Testimony given to the Financial Crisis Inquiry commissioned by whistleblower Richard M. Bowen III on events during his tenure as the business chief underwriter for correspondent lending in the consumer lending group of Citigroup, where he was responsible for over 220 professional underwriters. Suggests that by 2006 and 2007, the collapse of mortgage underwriting standard was endemic. The standard went down, underwriting standard went down. Understanding is actually an arrangement to produce, to originate, and also to manage credit system. This testimony stated that by 2006, 60% of the mortgages purchased by Citigroup from some 1,200 mortgage companies were defective, were not underwritten to policy, or did not contain all policy required documents. This despite the fact that each of these 1,600 originators was contractually responsible, certified via representation and warranties that its mortgage, which is origination, met Citigroup standard. So we talk about the same thing in detail, the failure within the credit processing and the credit management. Moreover, during 2007, defective mortgages from mortgage originators contractually bound to perform underwriting to cities standard increased over 8% of production. The problem, I mean, I just fall short of saying this is actually a process of corrupt practices. In separate testimony to the Financial Crisis Inquiry Commission, officers of Clayton Holdings, the largest residential loan due diligence and scrutinization surveillance company in the United States and Europe, testified that Clayton's review of over 900,000 mortgages issued from January 2006 and June 2007 revealed that scarcely 54% of the loans met their originators' underwriting standards. We talk about standard of lending and borrowing and the management thereof. These are actually experts who willfully turn a blind eye to credit system standards. And this was actually motivated mainly by the government giving them a go. It's conspiracy, in my opinion, in my layman's opinion, that is conspiracy between the government to actually try to impose their wills on the economy, on the private system, to provide public sector, which does not work. The analysis conducted on behalf of 23 investment and commercial banks, including 7 too big to fail banks, additionally showed that 28% of the sample loans did not meet the minimum standard of any issuer. So we talk about standard over and over. Clayton analysis further showed that 39% of these loans, that is these not meeting any issuer minimum underwriting standard, was subsequently scrutinized and sold to investors. These show things which they shouldn't have sold. We look at the predatory lending behavior. Predatory lending refers to the practice of unscrupulous lending, enticing borrowers to enter into unsafe and unsound secure loans for inappropriate purposes. That actually reflects my introductory remarks, which actually to say people who were actually not supposed to borrow money were allowed to borrow money because they were poor, they were uneducated, they couldn't hardly understand products. Or was it actually prudent so to do? But government actually allowing this, imposing it with promise of backing these risk takers. They took risk, believing that the government would do it, and they did. In June 2008, countrywide financial was issued by then California Attorney General Gary Brown for unfair business practices and false advertising, alleging that countrywide used deceptive tactics to push homeowners into complicated, risky, and expensive loans so that the company could sell as many loans as possible to third-party investors. In a jungle where the law is suspended, every thief will seek to maximize its income. That's what these traders were doing. And although the law is trying to take its own course, but these are actually sacrificial lambs. The people who have stood taking responsibility for this was the government, especially the US government, and the top dog or the fat cat of the market existing in the USA and globally. In May 2009, Bank of America modified 64,000 countrywide loans as a result. When housing prices decreased, homeowners in ARM stand at little incentive to pay their monthly payments since their home equity had disappeared. This caused countrywide financial conditions to deteriorate, ultimately resulting in a decision by the Office of Thrift Supervision to seize the lender. In other words, one countrywide employee who would later plead guilty to 2 months of wire fraud and spent 18 months in prison stated that if you are a pulse, we gave you a loan. They gave it to anybody if you are alive. So the market went rioting. I mean, the lending behavior went riot. It was actually a bonanza opportunity for animals of the market, economic system, to steal and kill and destroy. They were having a killing in terms of wealth, access. Such opportunity never not fight. Former employees from Ameriquest, which was the United States lending wholesale lender, described a system in which they were pushed to falsify mortgage documents and then sell the mortgages to Wall Street banks eager to make fast profit. This is growing evidence that such mortgage fraud may be a cause of the crisis. Yes, it is relevant. The government knew it. They could have anticipated it. They did it for political reasons. To give housing to people, public housing, using the credit economic system, which in itself is actually very questionable in its operation. In its estate itself, the credit system should be there. It creates a lot of problems, but this problem, when the government actually pushed this as far as they could. I actually suspect the government didn't understand what they're doing. They were just advised by some think tanks. This is my thinking, that this can be done. That was it. But maybe these think tanks didn't know the real implication of how the market is so complex and volatile and versatile. And when they implemented this policy, it actually created a monster. It brought out the monstrosity with the market economy was already. The regulation and lack of regulation, further information, government policies, and the prime mortgage prices. We talk about regulation, but regulation is like closing the door when the horse are bolted. According to Barry Asian Green, the roots of the financial crisis lay in the deregulation of financial markets. Yes and no. Yes, because the government do not regulate private companies under capitalism. So it's anti-privatization, it is anti-freedom. So by default, they don't regulate. Even if they regulate it, they have to do it. I'd rather don't do it. The best way to do is tax them and take the money and build public sector, provide public sector service for the majority of the population. That is democracy, economic democracy. According to in a 2012 OECD study suggests that bank regulation based on the Basel Accord encourage unconventional business practices and contributed to or even reinforce the financial crisis. In other cases, laws were changed and encouragement and enforcement weakened in parts of the financial system. Key examples include Jimmy Carter Depository Institute Deregulation and Monetary Control Act of 1980, DIDMCA phased out several restrictions on banks' financial practices, broadened their lending powers, and allowed credit unions and savings and loans to offer checkable deposits and raised deposit insurance limit from $40,000 to $100,000, thereby potentially lessening depositors' scrutiny of lenders' risk management policy. These were some of the policy decision and the practices which followed in terms of the credit economic system within the housing sector. In October 1982, U.S. President Ronald Reagan signed into law the Gun-Saint Germain Depository Institution Act, which provided for adjustable rate mortgage loans, which began the process of banking deregulation and contributed to the savings and loans crisis of the late 1980s and 1990s. This is some of the history of policies aimed at deregulating the economy in the bid to privatize the economy. Privatization is an ideological concept which actually altered the structure of capitalism in favor of the private sector, in favor of big corporations. In November 1999, U.S. President Bill Clinton signed into law the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, which repealed provisions of the Glass-Steagall Act that prohibited the bank holding company from owning other financial companies. So you find that even Bill Clinton relaxed regulatory infrastructure within law and policy. The repeal effectively removed the separation that previously existed between Wall Street investment banks and depository banks, providing a government stamp of approval for a universal risk-taking banking model. Take risk as much as you can, racketeer as much as you can. You are a market economic system, you are a jungle. Investment banks such as Lehman became competitors with commercial banks. Commercial bank and underwriting banks is two different things, but the bid to corporatize the economy. Holding banks are actually smaller than underwriting banks. Investment banks are actually bigger. They are more corporate. So it was actually door openings such as to allow big banks to swallow up small ones. The effect of that is actually the closure of holding banks. Things like banks where you go to borrow, to withdraw money. If you observe on the street today, they are closing down because they are being swallowed up by investment banks. Investment bank is an argument for investors and in favor of big corporation multi-billionaires and multi-trillionaire owners and investors. Some analysts say that this appeal directly contributed to the severity of the crisis, while others downplay its impact, since the institutions that were greatly affected did not fall under the jurisdiction of the act itself. This argument depends on where you stand. If you stand to gain from this kind of policy, you support it. So it is corrupt. This is dishonest. If it's not corrupt in the legal sense, it is dishonest. In 2008, the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission relaxed the net capital rule, which enabled investment banks to substantially increase the level of debt they were taking on, fueling the growth in mortgage-backed securities, supporting subprime mortgage. Some of the information relating to what I have discussed before, the SEC considered that self-regulation of investment banks contributed to the crisis. And different school of thoughts, think tanks, giving their views. Financial institutions in the shadow banking system are not subject to the same regulation as depository banks, allowing them to assume additional debt obligations relative to their financial institution or capital base. So they receive preferential treatment because the shadow banking entities is actually what the name says. If something is shadow, it means unreal. It's real, it is fake. It's the product of corporate and legislative, and should I say, state corruption. This was the case despite the long-term capital management debacle in 1998, in which a highly leveraged shadow institution failed with systemic implication and was bailed out. So this tradition of recklessness, of carelessness, and of economic failure always are rewarded when the government bails the people, the system out. So you could argue that if you make mistakes, you get paid even more. If you make more mistakes, you get more payment from the government. So this is a clear incentive to private companies, big business, to fail the bank. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but it's easy to see that they have nothing to lose. They have so much power. Nobody does anything to them. If they destroy the economy, the government will bail them out. And when in the process of destroying the economy, they make a lot of money. Regulators and accounting standard setters allowed depository banks such as a Citigroup to move significant amount of assets and liabilities off balance sheet into complex legal entities called structured investment vehicles, masking the weakness of the capital base of the firm or degree of leverage or risk taking. Cover up. Bloomberg News estimated that the top 4 U.S. banks will have to return between $500 billion and $1 trillion to their balance sheets during 2009. That is big money. Balance sheet, the money given to them. Money they have, they get. This increased uncertainty during the crisis regarding the financial position of the major bank. So people didn't know. There was a lack of opacity. It's contrasted with transparency. And you cannot do that when you have so much power. There was a financial and economic despotism operating within the market economic environment. Off-balance sheet entities were also used in the Enron scandal, which brought down Enron in 2001. The offenses, the wrath, just going on and on and on as early as 1997. The Federal Reserve Chairman Alan Greenspan fought to keep the derivative market unregulated. So these are people with vested interest who make trillions and billions during financial crisis. It's like they operate as if, buffaloes on steroids. With advice of the working group on financial markets, the U.S. Congress and President Bill Clinton allowed the self-regulation of the over-the-counter derivative market when they enacted the Commodity Future Modernization Act in 2000. See, they are all in it together. Privatization is a capitalistic instrumentation, but also a socialistic vehicle. And in other words, it's practiced everywhere. In the East, the West, gone are the days when we say these are capitalist countries, these are socialist countries. Forget it. The global economic language, development and progress, is capitalism. It's privatization, self-regulation. The government will no longer, these people now do what they like with public money. Public money and their money is the same. So these are actually the new economic emperors who rule the world with impunity, written by Congress, with lobbying from the financial industry, and further regulation of the derivatives market. Derivatives such as credit default swap (CDS) can be used to hedge or speculate against particular credit risk without necessarily holding the underlying debt instruments. No responsibility, no ethics. Take as much risk as you like with no homesickness whatsoever. The volume of CDS outstanding increased 100-fold from 1998 to 2008, with estimates of the debt covered by CDS contracts as of November 2008 ranging from $33 to 47 trillion. Big money. Total over-the-counter OTC derivative notional value rose to 683 trillion US dollar by June 2008. Warren Buffett famously referred to derivatives as financial weapon of mass destruction in early 2008. He might be right, but only that he could have actually said more than that. Because it wasn't that. A 2011 paper suggested that Canada's avoidance of a banking crisis in 2008 as well as in prior eras would be attributed to Canada possessing a single powerful overarching regulator, while the United States had a weak, crisis-prone and fragmented banking system with multiple competing regulatory systems. The Wild West in America, the American banking system in the private sector role is actually coming home to roost, is actually emerging from the vestiges of what remained in the past. Fast forwarding into the future, we are going to look a lot of chaos, a lot of violence, a lot of destruction, a lot of theft, a lot of destruction, and even killing. Destroy the wealth of the nation, you're killing them. You're destroying their lives. You see? You're stealing their money. You can call it whatever you like, but the writing is on the wall. And so we need to prepare to look after ourselves, to learn how to respect ourselves, to value our lives, to value the life of our families, to value the life of our fellow humans. As poor people who are the majority of the population, we are the true owners of the wealth of the nations in the globe. And let us prepare to take over control from the super rich who have failed culturally and economically and developmentally. They fail to run our world. The good the bird and the ugly who rule our world should be the inspected, and let us actually work with the good who are actually in power, in politics, in the industry, trade, economy, and everywhere else. Let us work with them because they are good people. And let us fight the evil people who are actually in power now and take them out globally. Then we will be safe. This is a way to bring peace. Otherwise, there's no peace for the wicked, because if we allow wickedness to operate in the world, they're going to be in serious trouble. And that's what created the financial crisis in 2008 and 2007, 2009, 8. That is what is now creating the cost of living crisis now. Thank you for watching. Subscribe, leave a comment below, click the notification bell to alert yourself when there's a new video, and watch the video, share with family and friends, and support this channel. Thank you. God bless you. Thank you. Bye bye.